welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we are going to be closing out on Love is Blind UK. We're doing all remaining 3 episodes in this episode. That should be what we're going to be doing. We're not going to be discussing any hot goss or anything on this episode. No ads to interrupt. Nothing like that. We're just going to be doing all of these episodes. The only thing that will be discussed, we might do some Love is Blind related hot goss, but that probably won't start up until the end of the final wedding episode. So that'll be in episode 11. So let's get into it. So Love is Blind UK season 1 episode 10. See you at the altar. So we got our stag do's and our hen do's, and this is what we're going to be doing. And the guys, we kind of see them doing like that bar pedaling bike thingy. They're doing that. And the ladies are going to be going to strip club, acrobatics club, burlesque. I think it's like a burlesque club. Let's say that. So Demi tells her friends that she is not seeing his family for the first time until the wedding day. So she has not met his family. Then the guys are at kind of this fancy arcade place, so that's kind of where they ended up, and very, the guy thing to do. And Tom and Freddie are talking about their doubts with getting married to their respective people. And they love, like, Freddie loves Kat, Tom loves Maria. But should we be doing this? Question mark. Kat says, I only want to wear a dress once. So if I think it's a no, I will not walk down that aisle. Then again, I mean, you're not gonna know, right? Until you get there. But I guess sometimes you can also have that feeling, but again, we've watched these episodes and I'm gonna say she didn't get the feeling. Um, then we have like this burlesque dancer. I don't know if I can really call them like a they're like like these, the old-timey strippers that like have the tassels hanging off their boobs. Yeah. So that's kind of what they do with the ladies. And the next day now, it's kind of the end of the stag do's, hen do's. The next day, we got 3 days before the wedding, and we kind of see everyone packing up. It's the last days in the apartment. And what I kind of liked about this versus the American version is based on the editing, anyways, it always makes it seem like the weddings happen like the next day. Whereas these, with these guys, it's like they're having 3 days to really think about it. And I think that's probably a really good idea. So we are starting off with the weddings now. And at this point, we're just going to be doing weddings and everything. So we start with Sabrina and Steven's wedding first. Now, let me tell you, this is probably the only wedding that I completely bawled at. I was an absolute mess. I think the only other time that I probably showed any emotion was Freddie with his brother. That got me. But I definitely felt the emotions with Steven and Sabrina's wedding. So I thought, out of everybody, because there's no one else I made this comment about, her makeup was beautifully done. It was very natural looking. I thought she looked absolutely beautiful. And I don't know with Steven how I felt about the white on black. I didn't particularly like that. I really, again, picky, but I'm a kind of a traditional girl. It doesn't have to be a black tux, but I think like a blue tux, like a dark, and not necessarily navy, but like more to the darker side of blue. Like I think Freddie's blue, loved it on him. I thought it looked great. But I'm kind of like a blue, black. If you're gonna do white, like I'm not a huge white tux girl, but I think like I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna do white, like I need to see some sort of accent of black with it because I don't particularly like a full white, or even like a red, like a dark red. Um, tux. I'm very traditional on that, and I think like if you're gonna do it, do different colors and it's black, then it needs to be one color. I did not like Steven with the white jacket and the black pants. I did not think it looked good. He looked good in it, but I don't like it. I didn't like it. It was not a good choice. Um, so I can't remember. Did we meet Steven's parents before? I don't think so, because this would be the first time we've met them. I only remember meeting like her family and his friends and his brother. I don't remember meeting his parents. So I think this is the first time. But we see Sabrina fully done up. She looks beautiful. The dress looks great. The hair, everything. Honestly, I think she was one of the more stunning brides out of all of them. She looked incredible. Um, she says in this moment that she feels calm. And so they are the same venue, each person, but it seems like they're kind of oscillating between these two different rooms. I really liked the room that Sabrina and Steven were in. I didn't like the other one. I don't know. I think if I don't know. It was nice, it was bright, but I didn't like it. I thought the room that Steven and Sabrina were in, and I don't remember who else was in that particular room. I think Nicole and Benaiah were in that room as well, but I really liked that room more so than the other one. I just didn't like it. Anyway, so the wedding starts at this point. Her brother is walking her down the aisle. And when Steven sees her, he just starts crying, instantly just starts crying, and I said, yep, yep, I wanna see them tears." And we can, do the vows and everything, and I'm not gonna go through every single vow with any of these weddings, but we're at that point now where we're gonna determine, is love truly blind? Well, Steven says, "I do." He does believe love is truly blind. And then Sabrina, she says, "I do," also. So they have said yes, and they are our first married couple. And yeah, I think that this is how it was supposed to go. I think if it went any other way, it would have been an absolute travesty. But we'll see how that sticks later on. Um, but next, we have our next wedding of this episode, and that is Maria and Tom's wedding. And Tom has not talked to his mom today. She is not going to be there, as we know, because she just doesn't believe in this process. So I think I missed that previously. She doesn't believe in the process. She feels uncomfortable about it. But at the same time, it's like if you know your son is getting married, despite how you may feel about a process, call your son. It just it feels very selfish on her part to not put her own feelings aside for her child. I don't know the woman, but I don't think that's how you should do things at all. So, and Maria's mom comes to see Tom and she says, "Whoever my kids are married to are my kids. You can call me mom from day one." And she's basically giving her blessing in this moment. And so Maria is basically, I think she's in her dress at this point. I did think that like her dress is sleeveless. I did, or I should say strapless. I did think the top part wasn't properly like tailored to her. I thought, like, it was too big on the top. Like, I feel like that should snug a little bit, but not too much where your boobs are popping out, but I felt like it should be snug more to her, and it wasn't. I don't know, I didn't maybe it was the bra she chose to wear, or maybe she didn't wear a bra, I don't know, but, um, I just yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and also, I didn't really like how her hair was done. I I feel like it was like a messy bun, but like a nice messy bun. But I feel like if you're gonna do, I don't know, if you're gonna do a messy bun, I feel like it needs to be more than what this was. I didn't like it. I thought she could have done a little better. She has beautiful hair, so I feel like, I don't know, she could have done a little more. But she does look beautiful nonetheless. And she's wearing a watch that her dad had actually given her, was one of the last things he'd given her before he passed away. So obviously that holds some sentiment. And then the wedding is starting. And again, this was what I kind of talked about. Like, I didn't like this particular room in the venue. Um, she has a sweet moment with her brother right before she walks down the aisle. And her mom starts crying instantly as she walks into the room. 'Cause I'm not sure if her mom saw her previously. Um, and, we do, all the stuff, the vows and everything, and but then we get to the point of now it's time to decide whether or not love is truly blind. And when the officiant is starting to get to this point, you can literally see it on Tom's face. He can't even hide it. This man is saying absolutely not. And he says, for me, we have different values. And I haven't had the chance to see how that will affect our everyday. And he's like, um, so for that, he's a no. He's the first person that spoke. And he says, you do look beautiful. And then he walks away. And she looks like she's shocked. And she kind of just stands there at the altar, just kind of staring. But she says, it probably wasn't the best time for either of us. And he says that if we had kids, he says this outside, and this is going to come back, obviously. But he says, if we had kids, I want my kids to know that, first of all, if we have a boy, to treat women equally when it comes to anything in a relationship. And he says, and if we have a daughter, I want my daughter to be a strong, independent woman. Now, he's obviously directing this at the fact that Maria has the thoughts, of the traditions of, the men take care of the women type situation. And that's obviously something that he was not brought up with. And I feel like if that's how he felt, why didn't you guys have a conversation about this? Like, why? Because she never once talked about, how, like, how you'd raise the kids with that mindset. Maybe that is how she would want to raise her kids, with that mindset, but you didn't ask her. Did you talk to her about that? I feel like you could have had an opportunity to talk that out, but you took the path of, no, I'm not going to deal with it. It is what it is. Like, our values just don't align where that's concerned, and I wouldn't want to raise kids like that. Like, it's it's that touch of that judgmental aspect of him again, the judgment where we kind of hear he judges people on their jobs and stuff. That's where this is coming from, and it's not a good look. Um, but again, I get it. But again, you could have actually talked to her about that. Maybe she would have raised her kids differently. You'll not know because you didn't ask. So that's basically it with Tom and Maria. We have one more wedding in this episode, and that is Demi and Ollie's wedding. So Ollie is feeling a bit overwhelmed at the moment, and I think that's understandable. And she says that they had little contact since leaving the apartment. Now, that to me, if I was Demi, would make me think, like, do you even care? Like, you're with me all the time, from the point of coming out of the pods until leaving this apartment. And let's put this into perspective. That's over a month of them constantly being together. And then with a couple of days or whatever apart, I hear nothing from you, barely. Like, that would make me think like I'm no longer a priority. At the same time, maybe that's his process of trying to get through things, because this is a person who has ADHD. So maybe that's his way of processing through things. May have nothing to do with her. But again, you're in a situation where you can't talk through that because you maybe feel like you can't talk to him, although I don't know why you couldn't have reached out. to him to kind of check in, make sure he's okay, maybe tell him how you're feeling in this moment, but you maybe didn't. And that's kind of like you could have taken the initiative to start a conversation with him if you felt like he wasn't talking. So Aaron comes to see Ollie and he can tell that, or no, sorry, he tells him, you tend to overthink a lot. And this is a man who's only known him for over a month, or maybe a couple of months now at this point. And he says, you tend to overthink things. He's like, even the little things. And sometimes you can't overthink everything. Sometimes just kind of live in that moment. So the other thing too that I want to mention here is Demi's nails. I loved her nails. But Ollie's dad is here. And I think this is also I think we mentioned this is the first time we're meeting his parents. And he looks just like him. And they have like what they quote unquote a rite of passage, drinking from this flask, it's rum in the flask. And he, so no, before go there, I really liked Ollie's suit here. I thought it was on point. He's like, okay, let's get this going. I don't want to waste my hair. I don't want my haircut to grow out. My guy, your hair's gonna grow out that quick? But um Demi does look beautiful, all done up. I still don't particularly like her dress, but she looks good all done up. And her parents come in, and her mom is dressed like a typical British lady with like the fastening on the hair, what's it called? The hair fastener. She looks, yeah. And his mom, I thought it was so adorable because again, we're just meeting people for the first time. And her dad is absolutely the sweetest. And he's like, I'm losing you. And she's like, no, you're not losing me. I'm always going to be your little girl. And yeah. So then she walks down the aisle and Ollie just starts crying. He just starts crying the minute he sees her. And I wrote here, while they're kind of going through the vows, the officiant's doing their stuff, and he's saying his vows and all, she doesn't look at him once. Not once. Like her eyes constantly were fixated on the floor. And I was screaming, can you look at him? Now, we all know where this is about to go, but you can't even look up and look at him. It actually really frustrated me to see her constantly looking down at the floor while you're having your wedding. So now it's time to find out if love is truly blind. And we get to this part where we're like, Demi, she's the first person to speak. And then it just stops. And we have to wait till the next episode. And I tell you how quick I went to the next episode. But we're going to take a tiny break here. When we come back, we will jump in with the next episode. And I am back. So let's jump in with episode 11. We're not ready. So Demi says, because we're still right off, we're starting where we left off. And she says, I love you, but I do not think love is blind. And he just says, why? When I tell you my gasp in this moment, I was like, like, he was clearly expecting her to say yes. And when she didn't, he just, that when he said why, it just hit me. And she says, because I have learned to love myself in a way that I haven't before. And that is a testament to you. I know what I want in a husband, and I don't think we're there yet. And she says, it isn't goodbye forever. And she walks away. And they hug, by the way. So they're leaving on good terms, but she walks away. Her dad goes after her. But he does say, he is confused. He's like, I understand why she wouldn't, but why wouldn't you, if everything aligned? So he's very confused in her reasonings for not going through with this. But Aaron goes to talk to him and asks him, like, how are you feeling? And he says, like, he's sad but happy. What if it didn't work out and we were married and then we would have to go through a nasty divorce and then we don't remain friends after this? So he's kind of seeing like the silver lining. And he says that this isn't the end of Ollie and Demi. We will see when we get to the reunion. But that's it for them. Next, we got Jasmine and Bobby's wedding. And apparently, Jasmine had a convo with her mom the night, or maybe not quite the night before, but before, where her mom basically was trying to plant the seeds of doubt. And it upset Jasmine. And all I could think of is how selfish can your mother be that in a moment like this where you're happy, you probably know you're going to marry this man, and your mom is planting the seeds of doubt in your mind. Like, it's one thing to say, you can get out of this now if you want to, but to literally plant the seeds. And I feel like she's not doing it because I mean, partially, again, she's a mother, but partially I do think she's doing it because she's trying to protect her from the unknown. But I also think she's doing it for selfish reasons. And it's just, yeah, no, that would not fly with me. Don't worry, y'all, she will redeem herself, but it's just, no. So she thinks that Jasmine potentially likes him more than he likes her. And I'm just like, where are you getting this from? Like, when she said that, I'm like, wait, what? Like, where did you get that? And she's also concerned about him having like a good job and being able to support his family. And again, like, there are so many different ways one can make money. So, yeah, just let it happen. And he has a heartfelt moment with his mom, who I don't know if we've seen before, but Jasmine looks great in her dress, and her mom actually looks good too. And the wedding's starting now, and his vows to her were so nice. And she was obviously emotional, but now it's time. Is love truly blind? And he says, I do. And she says, I do. And y'all, her mom is actually smiling in this moment. Who would have seen that happen? But Bobby tells her mom after the wedding, he says to her, I'm going to take care of her. I promise. And her mom, her mom says to him, love you. What is happening? I wasn't expecting her to say that to him, but she says, love you. And he says, I love you too. This was so sweet. This was so sweet. This was a sweet moment. But now they're doing the reception, and she says, I'm gonna be happy for the next 10 years. Menopause can, definitely turn things around, mess things up. But for 10 years, gonna be really good. So now it's Nicole and Benaya's turn. And his mom and sister, unfortunately, can't be at the wedding for a legitimate reason. His grandpa's ill and he's in Germany, so they're with him. And they did write a letter to him, though, which definitely set the emotions. So yeah, for him. Apparently, Ben talked about divorce prior to this wedding, which, why would you do that? Which definitely kind of put things or triggered her, which is understandable because, again, this is a person who's been through divorce before. And as a person who's been through divorce, talking about divorce before you even get married again, after being divorced, it would be a trigger. Like, what? But she comes out in her dress, and I mean, the train is nice. I don't particularly like the rest of her dress, but she looks nice. Um, and her dad won't be there, unfortunately, due to um, work stuff. So um, her mom will be walking her down the aisle. You're trying to tell me that work wouldn't let them off because his daughter's getting married again. Like, what? Anyway, she walks down the aisle and he sees her and he's crying. So you see the difference. When the men's cry, actually, I think Freddie does cry too, but barely. You blink, you would have missed it. But when the men cry, those are the ones that are saying yes. They're singing. So he's crying, he's emotional, and but then it's time to see if love is truly blind. And Benai says, I do. Of course I do. Easy. And she says, I do. Thank God. Because if she said no after everything they've been through, yeah. Then they have their reception and it's great. Yay. Moving on to our final wedding. We're at the final wedding now. We have Kat and Freddie's wedding. And he bought her a pair of earrings for the wedding, which was very sweet. Freddie's sister, Betsy Dora, is going to be telling him something that might be a little difficult for him to hear. And she basically says, like, you know, you guys are different. She's very different to you. You're on different pages. Like, maybe you shouldn't do this. And he feels that maybe they can grow together, which is interesting based on how this turns out. And I wrote here too that his brother is just so sweet. This is not where I cried yet. I will tell you when. And she comes out in her dress. She does look beautiful. And everyone's like, he better say yes. Well, and Freddie looks nice as well in his tux. And this is where I started crying when he's standing there with his brother prior to walking down the aisle. And he's like, he good? He good? And they're hugging. And this was it. I just started crying. I love his relationship with his brother. Um, and yeah, but the wedding is now starting and she walks down the aisle and he looked kind of stone-faced. So I guess he didn't cry out because this is where he looks stone-faced. And she tells him, no, my heart is beating out of my chest and you could literally hear it. So yeah, they do all the stuff, the vows and everything. And they're like, now it's time to see if love is truly blind. And Kat says, I do. And then Freddie says, I love you, Kat, but the timing may not be right for us. This is not a rejection of our love. And everyone is crying. And I swear I heard someone say, I can't believe he just did this. And he says goodbye. And he hugs her. And she was no emotion. And when he went to hug her, she whispers, don't hug me. That's a boss bitch move right there, okay? Don't hug me. You just rejected me. Don't hug me. And she storms out. He's already out in the out of the ceremony room. And he's already there with his people and she storms out. And she just walks right past him. And her dad is with her, but she says, can I just be on my own right now? So she's on her own right now. His sister goes, Betsy Dora, goes to talk to him. And she's like, you're just being true to yourself and honest to you and to her. And it's like, you know, the deciding factor, he said, which I think is not surprising for a lot of us right now, is the lifestyle differences between them. And he's like, you know, if she isn't that materialistic, then time will tell. So Bess is basically thinking, you know, we could still date. And if she is still that materialistic person, then I know I made the right choice. Then she takes the earrings out. Don't know where she put them. I think she does eventually give them to him. We do find out later. But she also took the ring off. And he does come to talk to her parents. And he kind of says, like, I know you don't want to see her hurt. I don't either. But his plan, he kind of explains, is that he still wants to be with her. He still wants to live with her, to share a life with her, just not be married right now. Now is not the time. And her parents can respect that, and they actually think he had a lot of guts going in there and talking to them, so that left an impression. It's kind of up to her now what she wants to do. But her friends say, "Maybe you can still be together. He said that he left you." And she says, he said I think he says, I can't remember exactly how she said it, but he says that he's not in love with me. He loves me, but he's not in love with me. That's what she said. And he does go to talk to her, and she says, like, "I was ready to commit to you." And she's like, "I never want to walk down the aisle again." Like, I think she's traumatized at this point. And he says, "Do you trust what we have?" And she says, "Yes, I do, but I'm gonna need time to bounce back." And that's basically it. That's the end of their wedding, and that's the end of the episode. The only other thing that we see is we kind of go back, and they go back to everybody and kind of talk about this and blah blah blah. And um the only thing I noted here was that we were playing Bobby's song at the end there. Your body is like a dancer. Yeah, that one. But it was kind of, you know what? It's kind of a banger. The, he's not good. Like, his voice ain't good. It's kind of a banger. But anyways, that's it for this episode. We're going to take another break here, and when we come back, we will finish this up with the reunion. And I am back, so let's finish this up. Episode 12, the reunion. Now, it's short, it's sweet, we get to the point. So let's start it off. It's been a year, straight up. It's been a year, and look who's back again. Sam is back. You know how to go. Don't tell a friend. So Matt and Emma are here, and they are going to continue being our hosts for the night. I really like them. Like, let's do this again. I really like them. Everyone looks great. We got friends and family in the audience as well, and some of the Pot Squad. And Sabrina and Steven, heartbreak of the century, are not together. And we're going to get some information on that in a little bit. So, Demi and Ollie are first on the hot seat here. And she says, "You know what? Ollie was not my guy." And she says, she kind of wanted to get back to her, back to the things that gave her joy. She actually moved back in with her parents. And she kind of feels like Demi 2.0 at the moment. And they are both at peace on what happened that day. And her, for him, he says, like, her doing the gesture for his birthday was kind of a positive thing for him because, he was overwhelmed with the process with these randoms that he didn't know on his birthday. And it kind of made him feel like he was home again. So it really left a good, like, an impression on him. And we kind of talk about Kat now, also being in the picture, obviously. And Kat does explain, like, "I didn't know how much Demi liked Ollie." She's like, "Obviously, I knew Ollie had another connection, but I did not know who it was." She's like, "I took the approach of kind of saying everything that was on my heart, and she didn't, so she didn't know." And Ollie says, like, "I need to address something, the biggest thing here." And I guess there's people out there who thought that Ollie wouldn't find Demi attractive. Now, I vaguely remember being one of those people, and here's what I'm gonna say. I don't want to defend people, and I don't know what people were saying um, out there, but from my perspective as a colored person, I think where a lot of that comes from my perspective, and I think as a colored girl's perspective, is when you see a man, a black man especially, who is kind of into, obviously he doesn't know what either person looks like, but he's into two different types of people. He's into a person who is a colored girl, and he's into someone who isn't. And you kind of automatically think, oh, there's just no way that he's going to be into Demi. He's going to want to be with a white girl. And I think that's where that comes from. And it's not so much about being jaded, it's just what we see. And we've seen it before in other seasons as well. We've seen it with Uche kind of maybe having a particular type that he's into. We've seen it with SK as well. He was kind of into a certain type as well, even though we didn't know that. And even the other one there that was with AD, Clay, he also has a type, and it's not AD. So that's kind of where it's coming from. And then you add the extra layer to that, and that man, the colored man, is also biracial. Well, you're going to think, well, he's probably more into a white girl than he is into a black girl. So that's kind of where it comes from. Now, I'm only speaking to that from my perspective. I don't know what else other people would have thought or said, because Demi's a beautiful girl. Maybe it's also because she's a little thicker. Maybe that was another aspect of it. Maybe it was because, she made a comment about being more of one of the boys and being, one of the girls. Maybe that was the other aspect of it as well. And she kind of planted that seed already to begin with. I don't know. But that aside, even if I thought, physically speaking, he might be more into Kat, I definitely thought Demi's the better person for him. But he says here, I want to make this very clear. He's like, the type of women that I mostly dated, if you look at my dating history, are women who look like Demi. No offense, Kat, but I typically don't date girls that look like you. Now, in the moment, I understand what he's saying here. He's trying to set the record straight of, don't judge me based on what, But on the other hand, he says what he says with Kat. And I'm like, oh, damn. Like, you didn't have to go there, but he does go there. And I think partially that is because he doesn't have a lot of respect for Kat at the moment. But he goes there. And he's like, I'm respectfully, like he's not trying to be an ass to Kat. And Kat says, okay, but is this respecting me, kind of judging me based on places that I've partied at? Like, how is that fair? But he wasn't the only one. Stop acting like Ollie's the only one. He just decided to dodge the bullet because he probably knows that's not for me. Freddie also judged it. Difference is, Freddie didn't say, that's not for me. He's just like, okay, let's see where this goes. So, yeah, like, I hear what she's saying, but at the same time, it's like, he wasn't the only one. He was just more blunt about it. So, Demi is like, she's like, since we're talking about disrespect, let me say this. Without even seeing Ollie, you literally make a comment saying that you didn't think me and him would work in the real world. And if we think about this, like, Kat says she didn't say this based on looks. But she did. She did say it based on looks. Now, I don't know if Kat had an idea of his race, but she definitely said it, dude, based on how she looks, on how Demi looks. And she also, on top of that, said, my mouth's going to get me in trouble. And Ollie's like, basically saying, that's messed. Like, the fact that you said that was, not cool. And Kat says, I was kind of thinking about the connections that he had. And Demi's like, but don't think about the connections that he has. Deal with your own connection. I'll deal with mine. Kat does apologize. And she said, I didn't mean any ill will. But you see, Jasmine is ready to pounce. And Jasmine finds her opening and she does pounce. And she says, um, she's like, if you didn't mean anything by it, then why would you say my mouth is going to get me in trouble? And it's at this point because Kat's crying because she feels like she's being attacked. And we're like, okay, we're gonna pause because she's crying. And let's talk about the mixer instead. So, Ollie, you clocked Charlotte. And have you guys been in contact since? And he's trying to play all coy and stuff. And he's like, what? Don't play that game with us. Have you been in connection with Charlotte? And he basically they're kind of dancing around because Charlotte's there too, and she kind of, they're not outright saying they're together, but they're kind of saying like they are exploring it. But at the same time, like he'll say things like he hasn't had a connection like how he has with Charlotte before. So like clearly there's a thing going on between them. And even like with Charlotte too, she kind of says like watching the show back with him and Demi, like obviously that would have been a hard thing to watch as the new woman in his life. And he was kind of that support system for her to get through it. And it's like, okay, y'all, okay. Like they're clearly together. And that again just kind of goes to show like he is clearly into a certain type because Charlotte looks a little bit more like Demi than Kat does. So that just kind of goes to show like he really is kind of saying, listen. um but yeah, Demi apparently also had a picture of her parents and her pod journal with a cute little message kind of, that was very heartfelt and it was very sweet. But that's basically it for them. Then we move on to Sabrina and Steven, and this was a tough one. So basically, the reason for the breakup, he wasn't very supportive with her hopes of opening an agency. They had talked about splitting their time between London and Belfast for the first year. But I was a little confused by this. When she said that they decided to split their time, it felt like to me like they were going to split their time. Like they would do half the time in London, half the time in Belfast together. But that didn't happen. But then it also feels like maybe like he was traveling back and forth and she was traveling back and forth. Like that's kind of what they were doing. So I'm a little unclear as to what the dynamic was and what their choices were with dealing with this. But um they were long distance. She says she went to London 7 times. He only went twice, y'all. And she says when he went, like she would make all these accommodations for him. She's like, I don't drink tea or coffee, but I would have tea or coffee for him when he needed to go to the gym. I rented a car for him. Like she's kind of saying these different things, like to make him feel comfortable and welcome. And in Belfast, he wouldn't do that for her when she was in London. And he apparently also wouldn't want to talk on the phone, but she's not much of a texter. So there was also that lack of communication. They weren't agreeing on the form of communication, much less actually communicating with each other, which can't you do half and half? Like, can't you find something that will work for the both of you in this moment? Like, I'm sorry, but if like you're in a marriage, a long distance one at that, you make the time to communicate and you think you would talk on the phone at some point or FaceTime or something, like make time. So I don't know. I feels like him saying he wouldn't want to talk on the phone is a bit of a cop out. But I also think her saying she's on a texter or a big texter is also a cop out. There has to be a little give and take on both sides with the form of communication. So that seemed a little bit ridiculous for me. But she also says, 2 days before Christmas, he was supposed to be coming, but then he messaged her, called her basically last minute saying that he wasn't going to be able to make it. Her family's obviously making accommodations for him to spend Christmas with them. And he basically made a comment of like, shit happens, they'll get over it. Sounds about right. Um, he explains, listen, it wasn't like I just didn't come. Money was tight, and that's why he basically didn't go. Um, and he's like, I feel like I don't know you because like you're kind of lying and whatever. And she's like, well, no, because we haven't seen each other in 8 months. Y'all, they have been split for 8 months. That basically means they were married for 4 months, barely happily for 4 months. Unreal. So he says, when you are falling in love in a picturesque setting, you don't worry about the things that you have to worry about in the real world. We weren't in the real world. And she says, well, you changed. He's like, well, I could say the same about you. Um, and basically at this point, because we're just going back and forth, she's like, why did you say yes to me? Because I feel like your vows weren't, you didn't stay to your vows. And he's like, well, I could say the same. And we're kind of going back and forth here. And I think like, again, that's a little bit unfair. It's kind of, again, a way to just stick it to him. Like you said, these vows, you need to stick to the vows. Like you couldn't even do that for like a year. And it's like, I understand the frustration on her part, but it's a little bit unfair to go there. It's a little unfair. But anyways, we're gonna end this here because we don't got time for this. Let's move on to the next couple, which is gonna be easy to go through because we're good here. Bobby and Jasmine. So he says, best year of my life. And he moved to London and they got their dream house. They're best friends, which is, the fundamental stuff that you need for a relationship. Um, we have never before seen clips of Bobby's house when she went to his house. Now, this is an interesting house. He has a pool table for a dining room table, and he has a pull-out bed. He has a Murphy bed, y'all. So, um, so we do have a look at the first year of their marriage. He bought a card for her for Valentine's Day that was £6. That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That's a lot of money for a card. Anyway, we talk about her mom in this moment when it came to the wedding, and she says that, there are going to be doubts. People are going to have doubts, but she kind of had to follow her heart. But does she like Bobby now? And she says that she 110% approves on Bobby. Not even just 100, y'all, 110. And basically, at this point in their relationship, they're trying to get pregnant. They are trying, as right now. So there you go. But that's basically it for them. Not much else to say. Now let's move on to Tom and Maria. So Maria says that I want to basically address his comments about raising kids. And she basically felt like he was kind of indirectly insulting her family. She's like, my mom raised good kids, not kids who judge people based on their job or the car they drive. Whoa. We went there. And Tom admits that he had some ugly moments during the show. You did. And Maria got upset when she saw that her mom gave her blessing with then the comments that would come later. Because she's like, he's kind of insulting the women of my family, but then you have like that. Now, here's what I'll say. I don't agree with her. I don't believe he was insulting the women of her family. I don't even think he was insulting you. Everything works for everybody, whether that's the traditional ways of life or, more modernized way of life. Everyone is entitled to their opinion on that. So I don't believe he was insulting you. I just think he thinks that that does not work for him, and that does not work for how he wants to raise kids in the future. That's not insulting. He's entitled to feel that way. And I will still stand by the fact that I think that he could have had a conversation with her to figure that out. But nonetheless. Then we kind of start talking about Natasha for a bit here. And we kind of say, we kind of need to talk about the whole does she still love you in this moment type situation. We are going to talk about that. We're going to address it. But he does say that he talked to Natasha about a week prior because he figured I'm going to see you here, so might as well just reach out to you now, kind of thing. And then we talk about the mixer and talking about Natasha. Did you when you said you loved him, did you mean past tense or present tense? And she said, no, past tense, not present. No. And obviously we saw it, right? And we were like, Tom, you got mixed up. And it's weird because his explanation for that doesn't, you weren't listening. You either A, you weren't listening or you over exaggerated what you heard. One way or another, like what's happening here, right? Anyway, um, so Maria does say, like there were good things, I was happy that he didn't look like a gremlin. Can't say that's how I feel now. And she hopes that he is less judgmental. Um, and she's like, let me just also set the record straight. I never expected him to finance my life. I can do that. I don't need him to do that. But they're good. It's fine. We're not friends or anything, but they're okay. So it's fine. Next, we have Nicole and Benaya. And now the Nicole and Benaya stuff is going to be fairly short until Sam comes in. And that's where it's going to pick up. So let's look at the first year of marriage. He likes to scare her. She's not about it. Whatever. They're cute. It's fine. And we also kind of see the reactions of their first date. And they're just like, it's like they're so in awe of each other and how in awe how that went. And yet she still says Sam. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyway. So, you're like, do you think maybe you guys could have maybe expressed that better so that like maybe things would have gone differently? But let's bring out Sam. And he does say, people's reactions to him have been so hard. Okay. Quickly, let's talk about Sam here, and let's kind of talk about that, like the whole whether or not you can pick her up line, right? The shake of it all. And he's like, I'm just human. I meant nothing by it. Yes, you did though. You literally heard her say something and you spiraled. Now, I don't know why Nicole said that, but you heard her say something and you just spiraled, thinking she's overweight or whatever the hell. And it's just like, but I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just human. It's like, okay, and you being human and you making a gross comment about a girl's body is doesn't really matter whether or not you're human in that moment. But anyway, he's human. Let's move on. And Nicole says to Benai, thank you for being my third eye. But how can you thank him for being your third eye when you didn't listen to him? I kind of got a little frustrated with Nicole in this moment again. Like, how can you say thank you when you didn't listen to him? And there's something else she says here too that I will bring up, but and then we kind of talk about like, Sam kind of saying, I think I love you. And he's like, well, I wanted to say that I was falling in love with her. My words were just wrong. Now, maybe in a universe I can believe that that may be true, but you're you, so. And so we kind of talk about now who kind of called off the engagement. And Nicole said that she had the doubts due to Benaya. Again, you had the doubts. You say you had the doubts. And we saw you had the doubts. And we know why you have the doubts. But then if you have the doubts, explain to me how in God's name you still said Sam. Like, what are your what Like, are your decision makers just not firing? Because I don't get it. I was actually really frustrated in this moment. But she basically told Sam that she did not want to go to Greece with him. And he obviously didn't take that well, which I don't think I would have taken that well either. But now we're talking about the mixer. And they kind of say, why did you feel the need to kind of talk about Nicole wanting to have sex with you, but you turned her down? And he says, the convo with Benaiah was getting a little heated, and he was being weird with me, and maybe I probably should have said that. And Demi, kind of looking like Jasmine in this moment before, kind of ready to pounce on somebody. She literally says, "Can you just apologize to Nicole because that was so disrespectful? It's not about Benaiah." And Benaiah never said it was about him, those comments. You're not disrespecting Benaiah, you're disrespecting her. You're gross. And Nicole says, your comment was hurtful and a lie. Okay, we're going to say bye to Sam now. Here's the thing. I don't think it's a lie. I think it's a lie that he turned her down, though. I can see that being a lie. Maybe he couldn't perform. And he's kind of chalking that up as, oh, I said no to her. But I still think in a world she probably did, because I still think she wanted to try and fast track her feelings to see how she would feel. I do think that. But anyways, their future, traveling a lot. But yeah, that's it with them. Now we're going to our last couple, which is Kat and Freddie. They are not together. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody here. They were never going to try to make this work, but it looks like there is no hard feelings. It looks like there's no hard feelings between them. He does feel, that she would kind of snap at him for no reason, which we saw when the cheating conversation happened too. Her reaction was, as we kind of know, was more from her own experiences. She does admit, like, it's not necessary for me to freak out over something that happened 7 years ago. But he also kind of says, like, you don't need to justify yourself. Like, it's fine. Now, the wedding day, why did you buy her the earrings, Freddie? And he basically says, he admits that he bought her the earrings as a way to, make it a soft landing when he rejects her. Well, he's like, well, if I didn't buy her the earrings, it would have looked really bad. But if I, that's why I bought her the earrings. I'm like, oh my God, Freddie, no. Don't buy her the earrings. Um, it was so not a good choice. But she did give them back. And Betsy Dora does still feel that Betsy Dora, she does feel like they wouldn't have been right for each other, which, honestly, I kind of agree. And the connection was real. In the pause especially, but it's kind of like when the walls came down, the walls actually went up, metaphorically speaking. Um, but she says, like, I could tell that he was being reserved. That's not him. So that's kind of where it came from. And I knew when she kind of made that comment about his being more reserved, it was not going to happen. Kat agrees with her on that, actually. She says, yeah, no, I agree with you. I think she takes ownership in the fact that I'm part of the reason why, and that's on me. So we kind of talk about Kat's emotions here because we get a montage of her crying, and but they will stay friends probably forever. They both kind of say they're better as friends, and she thanks him for, kind of making her who she is. And he's like, he taught me a lot. Never change because you will make someone really happy. And I thought that was very sweet. But that's basically it for the reunion. I do believe I heard she's dating somebody, but we'll see what I have here because I have kind of brought stuff up, but I haven't really gone through anything. But let's see what I have here with my articles. So apparently Kat and Bobby are accustomed to being on screen following their previous spells on TV. Kat had already been in an ITV show, Ibiza Weekender. Before that, she appeared on Ibiza Dreams, a BBC Three docuseries also filmed at the Spanish holiday destination. She apparently and 10 other partiers who arrived on the luxury island for a 6-week stint, voiced by Love Island host Maya Jama, in an effort to bolster their careers. She apparently also revealed that she had her sights set on becoming a swimming instructor and had previously worked on the party island as a shop girl. So she apparently also found romance, revealing she had fallen in love with one island hunk called Liam. By the end of the series, romance had finished as she who is now dental nurse plans on becoming a swimming instructor on the island. So Bobby, as we kind of know, shut off his brainy side after racking 31,000 pounds from ITV1's Moneyball. Moneyball, which apparently ran from 2021 to 2023, would offer contestants 250,000 pounds if they could ask 6 tricky questions correctly. While Bobby failed to clinch the ultimate jackpot, he did come away with a decent-sized wedge. Not bad. What else do I have? But that seems to be it on that. Yeah, that seems to be it for that article. But we also have... There was another couple on this episode, on this season that we did not see. So let's find out a little bit about them. So the Love Is Blind UK singles, we didn't have just 6, but the dating experiment also worked its magic on Olivia and Connor. I do have a picture of them. Maybe I'll try to see if I can bring that up. Or you can also just check Facebook. There will be pictures there of everybody. 2 members of the season 1 pod squad who got engaged sight unseen. The cameras didn't follow their relationship beyond the pods, but the couple forged ahead on their own to discover whether love is truly blind and if it could go distance in the real world with no one watching. Tom actually was the first man Olivia met in the pods. She did feel an instant connection with Connor, though, that deepened date after date. The first time I heard Connor, I knew he was going to be trouble for me. His accent was an immediate weak spot. I very much appreciate an Irishman. Meanwhile, Connor was intrigued by Olivia's distinct approach to dating in the pods that separated her from the rest of the pack. She was a slow burner who didn't give everything up at once. As the two spent more time together, they discovered their connection went beyond a strong first impression. She was incredibly ambitious, and we spoke about building a successful, productive future together. Olivia was struck by how the Dublin-based health food business owner spoke about the life he wants and the milestones he wants to achieve. Both opened up to each other in ways they hadn't expected. I spoke to him about topics in my life that I hadn't spoken to my ex-partner of 18 months about. Connor even paid attention to the little things, like when he surprised Olivia in the pods with oat milk hot chocolate after she mentioned in passing that she was longing for a taste of home. I was speechless as none of us girls had received gifts yet. Yet even the most romantic Love Is Blind courtships have their shares of bumps, and Olivia was just one of Connor's connections. Admittedly, we didn't have the smoothest journey in the pods. Unfortunately for me, Connor was a very popular guy with the rest of the girls. It's just that I wanted to give he said I wanted to give each connection enough time to see which was the most likely to develop into a happy relationship. I absolutely regret leaving it until the last day to propose to Olivia. She had a lot of unnecessary stress put on her. But a tear-filled conversation with Olivia changed everything for the couple. They let down their guards and expressed just how much they meant to each other. Once Connor broke off his other connection, their path to happily ever after was finally clear. But Olivia had only his word to depend on as she anxiously waited for him to get down on one knee. I had no idea what was going to happen as we hadn't spoken since. I was a little bit of a hot mess, but what girl wouldn't be in a love triangle? Of course, he stuck to his promise. The two took a leap of faith and left the pods as fiancés. When they finally laid eyes on each other, no one was disappointed. Olivia was incredibly beautiful and lit up the whole room. It was intense and passionate and just a relief to be able to finally physically be with each other Battling through her own nerves, Olivia needed a moment to adjust, but when Connor picked her up and whispered in her ear, everything changed. I just felt safe, and let's be realistic here, who wouldn't be delighted to see Connor at the reveal? While they weren't selected as one of the couples the cameras followed to the romantic retreat and beyond, Olivia and Connor knew that their story was far from over. In fact, they chose to mirror the experiment's next steps by booking their own Grecian holiday, whether the cameras were rolling or not. Plus, they knew that once they returned home, they'd be leading separate lives. Olivia lives in London, Connor in Ireland. For weeks, the couple soaked up their time on vacation. We continued to talk about our future, what it could look like, and what we wanted to do next, and where we would live to make the relationship work. All over a lot of wine on the beach. At the time, both believed they could intertwine their lives. We got on really well and were very comfortable in each other's company. But when they left Greece and reality crept in, their fledgling engagement faced its biggest obstacle, long distance. The two remained committed to each other. Olivia visited Connor and says, it was super lovely to get an insight into his life. Despite their best intentions, though, the relationship came to an end. Connecting in the pause is a very specific situation. And there was a lot of circumstances of real life from the equation. Entering back into the real world posed challenges to the relationship, and in the end, we decided it would be better to remain as friends. Olivia describes the split as extremely hard, chalking up their breakup to busy work schedules and limited in-person time together. While marriage wasn't in the cards, Connor and Olivia remained incredibly close, walking away from the experiment with a forever kind of bond they never expected to share. The fact that we had such a strong connection in the pods wasn't a coincidence. We ended on amicable terms and have a huge amount of respect for each other. These days, the two chat regularly, sharing advice, support, and silly stories as Love is Blind UK has rolled out over the past few weeks. I feel extremely fortunate for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and to have experienced it with such an incredible person like Connor. And that is our story on the couple who didn't make it onto the show. But that's it for me. That's the end of Love is Blind UK. This was an amazing season. I think America can learn a thing or two from this season. But that is it for Love is Blind UK. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps. Every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there, and you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.